It's a wide variety of good old American choice. The things that are right for us as we see it. All brought to us by American competition in economy.
America has been the most powerful country in the world for at least a century, with more military bases than any other country globally. But something is changing.
Never before has our nation enjoyed at once so much prosperity and social progress with so little internal crisis and so few external threats.
This war will not be quick, and this war will not be easy.
Yet, as long as others will challenge America's security and test the dearness of our beliefs with fire and steel, then we must stand or see the promise of 2 centuries run.
7.5 years ago, President Bush announced the beginning of military operations in Iraq.
To disarm Iraq, to free its people, and to defend the world from grave danger.
And so, my fellow Americans, ask not what your country can do for you.
For more than a century, America has dominated the world in nearly every sector, especially in the military and war sector, setting the standards for other countries to follow and hitting hard on those who do not align with their interests.
We are now prepared to destroy more rapidly and completely every productive enterprise the Japanese have in any city. We shall destroy their docks, their factories, and their communications.
On my orders, the United States military has begun strikes against Al-Qaeda terrorist training camps and military installations of the Taliban regime in Afghanistan.
And as Commander-in-Chief, I have determined that it is in our vital national interest to send an additional 30,000 U.S. troops to Afghanistan.
What if I told you the US global dominance is slowly coming to an end? As the world's biggest economy, the US dollar has been the global trading currency, with American banks mainly in control. It has truly been the era of the American empire. You and I need to be very aware of the reasons for the decline in American dominance and prepare for the future, because whether we like it or not, we are affected by any change that is coming. We need to understand that there have been many empires in the past that have come and gone, including the British and Mongol empires, which were the largest empires in history. But the British Empire, for example, fell due to the billions of dollars worth of debt following World War II, and they haven't been the same since then, despite the fact that Great Britain was a winner in World War II. And that was because it greatly affected their economy. And at the same time, America was enjoying all the benefits of the war.
The war in Europe was good for America. U.S. banks were lending huge amounts of money to Britain and France, who in turn used the money to buy arms from American factories. With the war, Americans were in the greatest economic boom in their history.
And before the British power, we had Spanish, German, and even the French, and most of them had to fall due to excessive spending on wars which backfired on their economies, even if they won these wars at some point. And as of now, there seems to be just one country that is following this same track record in the world today. I will let you make a guess. So situations like this have happened before, and whether we like it or not, it becomes inevitable. All the pressure that has been put on the rest of the world by the United States for many decades has led to the rise of new powers like China.
As a result, the economy grew 90-fold over the next 4 decades.
Chinese President Xi Jinping signed a series of strategic deals with Saudi Arabia on Thursday.
Despite China's struggle to dominate globally, the US has launched an economic war and has been firing multiple shots at China through many different economic sanctions.
Standing up against China's unfair economic practices, I've made sure that the most advanced American technologies can't be used in China.
Reason why China has said time without number that no one country has the right to dictate their policies and that of other nations.
China and Russia reaffirm their no-limits partnership. Looking to build a new multipolar world order, leaders Xi Jinping and Vladimir Putin meet in Beijing.
The global south might be taken over from the United States. It seems nearly impossible, but then we are beginning to see more and more of these signs every single day. From trade to the economies to the US dollar to the foreign relations between the United States and the world, there's so much happening right now that is putting the US in turmoil and of course putting the US at risk. And I believe that if the United States doesn't make a good move very soon, their dominance might just come to an end much quicker than we are anticipating.
Well, China's emerged as the second world power, representing almost 20% of GDP, with the US around 25%. So it's an incredibly important place. You can't ignore it. You have to do business there. And even if you decide not to do business there, you need to understand what's going on, because what's happening in China influences every industry around the world.
If you have been following the news lately, you will understand that the US dollar is currently facing so much trouble globally. Many countries, unlike before, are currently shifting away from the US dollar. And of course, it is clearly affecting the United States economy. The truth is that the end of US global dominance isn't just about external forces, but it is also about the internal forces in the United States. So I can say that the United States is kind of imploding.
Killing, literally climbing the walls of the Capitol.
The thugs smash windows using fists and a shield.
Stop protecting tyrants! Stand down!
Chaos erupts on the University of Texas at Austin's campus during a pro-Palestine protest.
The fact that America ranks first as the richest nation in the world in terms of GDP.
The United States is known for having this great abundance, and at the same time, alongside that abundance, there is widespread poverty and economic insecurity.
Sometimes you question, we're in the United States of America. How can the citizens be going through such a issue?
Nearly $33 trillion. That's what the U.S. national debt was as of early September 2023. So why can't the U.S. get a handle on its national debt?
We need to understand that the United States we used to know before isn't as it is today. And that is partly due to the rise in other global powers, of course, like China and China's relationship with Russia. Now, talking about China's relationship with Russia, that's one of the first parts that is currently linked to the end of the US global dominance. Russia and China, through the BRICS alliance, are currently shifting many countries away from the relationship with the United States. And that is very dangerous for the US because, as we all know, in the world today, it's about alliances. If you have no friends, you would not be able to control the world. So when we look at the BRICS, that's Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, and recently Saudi Arabia alongside many other countries that are joining the BRICS, it is definitely threatening to the original G7 that have been controlling the world for quite a while now. And of course, with the United States being one of the top leaders of the G7. And looking at all the global decisions now being made in the world, the G7's power seems to have really reduced because some decisions that are made by the G7 right now are not respected by other countries, especially the countries that are joining the BRICS. And this is in turn affecting the United States' growth and control because the BRICS right now are trying to move away from the US dollar, with many countries already trying to ditch the US dollar. And lately, many countries are currently trying to deal in their local currency. Some countries are moving away from the dollar. Some countries are moving towards the Chinese yuan. And many more countries are currently stocking up their reserves with gold. Just like China, China has been buying gold at a geometric rate over the past month, and it's been increasing exponentially. And of course, that is to the detriment of the US dollar because in the past, we all know many countries used the US dollar for trade. But right now, very few countries are using the US dollar for trade. And that is definitely affecting the US economy. And talking about the US dollar, the BRICS are even trying to create their own currency to counter the US dollar. And if this finally comes to fruition, we might just see the slow end of the United States dollar and of course the United States global dominance.
Solid for so long, thinking that in times of trouble, they'll be okay. But is that era of the dollar as the world's reserve currency coming to an end?
The dollar's dominance is part of the United States' dominance, and the benefits to the United States are enormous. The United States would then shrink into becoming one among many economies, and all the subsidies, direct and indirect, from being the world's currency would be taken away. And so it's a kind of feeding on itself.
And it's not just the BRICS alone. There are many scenarios currently happening internationally that is really affecting the image of the United States in the world. This has made many countries to rethink their relationship with the United States. So when we look at all of this right now, we can see that the relationship between the United States and most countries globally is slowly fading away. Let's take a look at Africa, for example. The US is really losing its grip on African countries as compared to before.
The United States, let me start by saying, it still remains the most preferred trading partner for the African nations. However, like I used to tell the State Department and any engagements that we've had with the United States, I felt during my tenure that the United States was slowly losing ground, and they were risking losing their position as Africa's preferred trading partner.
We all know for many decades now, the United States has always had a full control in many countries around Africa. But lately, it seems like there's a reawakening around the continent of Africa, with many countries choosing to go against the United States and of course siding with countries like Russia and China, as it can be seen in Niger recently and in Chad, alongside many other countries where US troops have been asked to pack their bags and leave. Meanwhile, these same countries are signing multi-million and billion-dollar deals with China and even welcoming Russian troops into their country.
The American presence on the territory of the Republic of Niger is illegal and violates all the constitutional and democratic rules.
So I think with this happening right now, the United States is definitely losing a grip on many countries globally. And it's not just Africa alone. That's just one point. There are some European countries right now that are slowly shifting away from the grip of the United States. And this is getting more and more complicated, especially with the recent visit of the Chinese President Xi Jinping to Europe, where he visited many European leaders and had chats with them. No one knows all the details of these discussions, but then just the fact that the Chinese leader has visited Europe and had indoor chats with many leaders across Europe, like the French president among others, should be worrying for the United States. Because in the past, the United States has always had a very good relationship with European countries. But lately, as we all know, China seems to be coming in with a counter partnership, as I can say. When we look at trade, for example, with the trade war that the United States is currently having with China, and of course many other countries, with the multiple sanctions that the United States is currently placing on many Chinese businesses, I feel like that is clearly affecting the US economy. We all know China is one of the biggest trading partners with many countries around the world. And of course, every country needs their economy to keep functioning. So many countries currently seem to be siding with China rather than the United States, because most countries do more trade with China and not with the United States. And even the United States itself does a lot of trade with China, despite the multiple sanctions that it keeps on placing, especially on clean energy products from China. So I believe these multiple sanctions on Chinese companies in the United States are currently causing more harm to the US economy. Because when we look at it clearly, China is like the world's manufacturer. China produces a whole lot of stuff, especially in tech. And tech is the future, coupled with clean energy. So with the US placing multiple sanctions on China, it might definitely backfire, as many countries seem to be moving towards China in order to do more trade with China, like Africa, for example, and of course European countries. Of course, there's so much trouble happening globally between the United States and many countries around the world. But then these are not the only factors that are causing the United States to be pulled back from its normal global control. So one big question right now is, will the US mainly focus on its internal issues, or will they try to handle their foreign affairs? And how will the foreign affairs coupled with the internal conflicts affect the United States, and of course cause the United States' global dominance to come to an end? If the US doesn't make some moves very soon, before they realize it, other countries in the world might just take over. Because with many decisions that the United States is making right now, it is simply alienating itself from the rest of the world without even knowing it. And of course, many countries' currencies are still pegged to the US dollar, many countries still need the United States to be able to move forward in their economy. And it's not easy for a country to just cut off itself from the United States. It's going to take a while. But then, if all of this has started happening right now, who knows how far this might just go? And who knows how soon the US global dominance might just come to an end? Well, I'll be right here bringing to you all the updates on this topic and of course so much more. And if you want to see that, feel free to like this video, subscribe to this channel, so I'll give you more information as soon as I get it. Thank you so much for watching this video. Remember, this is Willen. See you next time.